put yourself in that position, you
have to
your
close
life
it.
changes.
So how many of you ran into a situation during the trial where you quickly heard something or that you had a close call? How many had a close call?
You try to take yourself out of that situation
Right.
before it even
Yeah.
happens.
Right.
Where you don't want to put yourself in a
do you
position
brief-
where you have no control over what's going on.
Did anybody else have that sort of situation?
I think all
Yeah.
of us
Yeah.
are.
I think we all,
Do you
yeah.
brief friends and family? They know enough to not to bring it up or not to mention it or say anything?
My family never did.
My family.
My family never brought it up.
Who was the most compelling witness?
I don't know what you could say.
Let me ask you this: what was the moments that made you guys just as people emotional? What was a part of the trial that you thought to yourself,
When
wow.
Odin's friend was on the stand,
yeah,
you could see his amount of loss. For me,
Lisa, you said before you were surprised by a lot
for you it
of
was
people.
what?
For me, it was in the beginning, when, the pictures
Yeah.
first got
Pictures,
put up.
definitely.
It was, you're told to be unemotional, and to sit there and hold back tears was hard.
Did you believe Shayana was telling the truth?
No comment.
Was there a moment in the jury room that I guess it sort of kind of came together? You sort of came together as a group, and you kind of said, "Well, this is probably it." I mean, was there a split, or did you gradually come together as a group?
We've agreed not to talk about what happened.
I didn't mean.
Sure,
I don't want details. I just wondering, just for the
Like, was there an aha moment?
I'm sure each of us have that.
Yeah.
Now, you
So a
seem
lot
to
of-
know who Aaron Hernandez was. At what point did you realize the enormity of this case?
Yes.
When you saw all of us?
Yeah.
Lisa, you said before you were surprised by a lot of the information you learned today. Aside from the 2012 case, what else have you learned since you've come out of your seclusion?
it was just after the judge came in, so. that's
Like
all.
what, for example?
I really don't prefer to comment.
And she came in and told you about that case in Boston?
How do you think this will affect you in the long term? Like, what do you think your population will affect you long?
Just makes you appreciate how quick life can end and how fleeting it can be.
The testimony was very long and detailed at times, even though we had trouble following it, and we knew a lot about this case going in. Did you guys have trouble following the evidence ever? I mean, how did the mass detail in this case affect you and ultimately affected in deliberations?
Definitely experienced information overload, that was for sure.
Did it ever get boring?
Like the cell phones?
Yeah, we were bored too. It was important information, every bit of it. Whatever we got was important information, and we used it
To make a decision?
Yeah.
What sort of appreciation do you guys have now for the justice system and how this works? Maybe if one or two or a couple of you could speak about that.
The system is designed to be fair to both sides of the party, and you ask what took so long. In fairness, you can't rush decisions like
You
that. You
probably-
need to make sure that you consider all aspects of it, that's all.
Probably won't answer this question, but for the general public, the big mystery around this is, how does somebody with that much talent and that much money throw it all away?
You'd have to ask the individual. I'm not here to speak for anyone else.
But that was never something that rolled around in your head,
It
or?
wasn't evidence that we could
we never
deliberate
discussed
on.
that.
So you guys said you didn't know, most of you guys, you said you didn't know much about the trial. How many of you are Patriots fans? Hands. Any?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4,
1, 2, 1,
I counted 6.
6?
Is it going to be surreal going back to your regular jobs and lives tomorrow after being here the past 2 years?
Yeah, it is. Big
Without
adjustment.
getting into the specifics
lot
of
more
the
questions.
deliberation, could you just comment any more on how difficult it was to reach this decision? Was this a hard decision to come to?
It took 7 days and 35 hours. I don't think it was an easy one. There was a lot to consider. I think that, outside of that room throughout this process and maybe a lot of different trials, people can make quick and irrational decisions based on limited or no facts sometimes, and we had to go through over 430 pieces of evidence and over 130 testimonies. We had to exclusively look at fact. It was a lengthy process.
Can you say what your reaction was when the defense attorney acknowledged in closing statements that Aaron Hernandez was present and witnessed the killing?
Oh, we were all shocked by that.
Surprising.
Very surprising.
What did you think about the defense's case? Was it compelling?
What were some of their best
I think the evidence was compelling.
Yeah.
That's what I
This
found
was such a
compelling.
circumstantial case, you really had to connect the dots here and make a lot of inferences, I'm sure.
Did the PCP defense play into your thought process at all?
No.
You didn't buy the PCP?
No.
Probably because of the video, the way they were acting in the video.
That's part of it.
Yeah. Going back to when Mr. Sultan acknowledged he was there, so you said you were shocked. I mean, was that an important moment for you as you? Was it an important admission, or did that affect your decision making?
More corroboration,
And
I would think.
Yeah, and everyone definitally discussed it. I mean, that was a definite discussion.
Was there any
point
yelling?
when we got it.
Anybody get really angry at each other?
Did that picture of Aaron coming to the base, did that thing in his hand look like a gun to you?
No, we couldn't take that into consideration as far as.
It was interesting.
You have to take it for the person.
We
just found that out.
And again, when you found out these things, the double murder and Alexander Bradley, I guess, what is your reaction after going through all of this? Then you hear all of that.
That we did the right thing, yes.
Yeah. Do you wish you had known
That we did the right thing. Absolutely.
Are you aware of the text message that Odin and his sister exchanged? You aware of the contents of that text?
We found out today.
How will you factor this experience of the last couple of months with the rest of your life? I mean, will it be something that will define you, do you think?
I think we'll all remember it for the rest of our lives. It'll definitely be a part of us.
I never want to do it again.
Yeah. We could get taken off the list. I think everyone would like to.
Are you paying attention to the Boston trials?
Not too much now. Watch the news.
I was going to say, that's what we're looking forward to, is catching up on current
Heading
events.
forward?
What's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months? You're going to be paying attention to what happens in that trial.
Probably.
Yeah.
This has
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
made us think
Did I
about it.
understand you right when I asked, do you wish you had known that about Alexander Bradley being shot and maybe the Boston murder as well? I think you said absolutely.
Well, we understand why we couldn't
Right.
know that.
She told us why we
Right.
couldn't. But had it been presented to us in the beginning, yeah, it would have, just like any of the
Why
other.
would you know that?
Why wouldn't we?
You said the judge told you all this new information?
Today.
Forgive me if this has been asked. Would it have made a difference to you had he taken the witness stand?
Depends on what he had to say.
Right.
Were you hoping he might?
I don't think we ever expected him to be honest.
Guys, was it?
the trigger man?
I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, it seems like
Was it hard? I mean, what do you make of the fact that there's no murder weapon to be found? There was no really hard to find motive, and no eyewitness saying that he did it. Did that make it hard? Did it? Is that something that went through your minds, or what are your thoughts about this?
Just reviewing all the evidence.
Yeah.
We went through everything step by step, and
The evidence just outweighed all that.
Can you talk about some of the more compelling witnesses or evidence you heard that was really decisive to you as you listened to it?
Can you give me an example of one or two things on everything?
Well, maybe the 22 that was found being linked with the same serial number from the one down in Florida. I think that to us, because when it was first introduced, we were like, we didn't know how that was going to tie in, right?
Was relevant.
The one that was tossed in the...
Right, in the woods, and then after that, when we seen the serial numbers matching, that was a shocker for us. Yeah.
And the lack of a murder weapon? How did that play with you?
Well, it's the law, going by the law, we didn't need the murder weapon, so.
You think it went out in that trash
But
bag?
you charged him for you convicted him for unlawful possession of the murder weapon. So can you talk a little bit about why you were willing to do that without actual physical evidence?
Unlawful possession of a firearm, not the murder weapon.
45.
Right,
Yeah.
That's what made us, for 45, that's all we had to say.
Can you say what you thought of the video of Cheyenne taking out the bag that was as large as her out of the house?
You think the gun was in
Was
it?
it that?
We couldn't
That way-
speculate, and we certainly couldn't speculate.
We're not here to speculate.
I know it's not specific about what you discussed, but did you start with the weapons, and as you went through the case, did you start with ammo, weapons, and then get to...
Again, we're not here to discuss what happened in the jury room.
What did you think of Shania Jenkins' testimony?
Emotional.
Yeah. You could see she cared about him. Yeah.
Pardon?
You could see that she cared about Odin.
Did any of you hold back tears at any time in the past couple of months?
Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because on the jury, it was very hard to read your emotions. You were very straight-faced. Was that hard to do? Just keep
Out of
Yes,
respect
out of
for all
respect,
parties,
yeah.
it's something that had to be done.
Guys, there was a juror that left under some controversial circumstances. Can you give us, sort of enlighten us of what happened there? Perhaps she had expressed a view previously. Can any of you tell us what happened there? We know that
You know more than we do.
Yeah, we had never heard it. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, do you have any lingering questions about the events that unfolded? You wonder why he got in the car that night with them, decided to take that ride?
The questions that we can answer, for our peace of mind, we have, and the questions that we can't, and you move forward.
Can you say why extreme cruelty or atrocity? Why did you decide that?
The shots. There was 6 of them.
I think that
It's extreme.
I think that each of us may have had different opinions as to why we reached that conclusion. There were 7 different sectors or bullet points, that comprised the extreme atrocity or cruelty, and I think some of us got there for different reasons, but still reached ultimately the same conclusion.
Were there tears in the jury room?
Yes.
Yes.
Men and the women?
Did that indicate there wasn't premeditation versus the cruel and the atrocity?
I don't think that it indicates that there wasn't premeditation. I just think that we couldn't unanimously conclude that there was evidence of premeditation. However, we all agreed that there was evidence of the extreme atrocity or cruelty.
With this being such a big trial, many think that there's money to gain from being on the jury pool. What happens next? Any book deals, television, or...
We want to be left alone.
None of us even wanted to come into this room. So I don't foresee that for any of us.
What kind of strain did this put on your lives these last 2.5 months being here for like 8 hours a day and not going to your regular job?
You can do
It was our duty to do. I mean, whether we're serving our company or our country, it was our responsibility to give it 100%. And everyone in here, came in here, and although we all have our personal lives and responsibilities and distractions, I think everyone focused 100% on this case from the moment we walked through the doors to the moment we left.
During the voir dire, either during the case or when you were being chosen as jurors, was it awkward to you to have Hernandez standing right there over you, especially toward the end of the trial if the judge had to bring you in to speak to you? What sort of one of you is nodding? Is that awkward?
Well, it was
Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It was uncomfortable for everybody to be standing around us. It's like, we
What
were
was
in this
your impression
little...
of Hernandez during the trial when you would sneak peeks at him?
I can speak for myself. I tried not to form any opinion because, again, I think that would just be speculation. We haven't hurled the fact yet. We didn't really know exactly what happened. I tried not to gauge his facial expressions or gestures in any way.
You all seem at this point just very sure about your decision. Was there a point during this trial where you were almost assured the other way, that perhaps he did not do it?
You try not to form an opinion until
And
you've seen the evidence.
we follow the court's orders. Assume that the man sitting in that seat is innocent until the prosecution proves he's guilty. And that's what happened today.
Did any of you know who Robert Kraft was before he came in, and what was the impact of his testimony when you saw him in the chair?
Yeah, I knew who he was.
I didn't know.
I had no idea.
But from our point of view, that was some of the most compelling testimony. Would you guys agree? Mr. Kraft?
I agree that it was compelling.
Yeah.
And we all felt bad because we thought he was sick.
Yeah.
I had a cold, yeah. It was a cold.
Yeah.
I had a cold. Felt bad for you.
It's difficult to say what witness was more compelling and what witness isn't. There was hundreds of them,
Yeah.
130 if you want
Did
to
you
get
guys
down
take
to
a
it.
poll when you first went? You start deliberations. Do you take a poll right away, or do you? I know you don't want to go into deliberations, but do you take a poll right off the bat?
We're not going to talk about what happened.
Going back to Kraft, in what way was his testimony compelling for those of you who thought it was?
One part for me was Aaron's alleged statement that he wished at the time that Odin was murdered was made public because he was at a club at that time. To this day, we just went through a 3-month trial. This is now a year and a half or 2 years later. We still don't know the exact time of Odin's murder specifically, so I don't know how Aaron would have had that information 2 years ago. If even today, after medical examiner's review, still don't have that exact information. So for me, that's...
Do you all feel you can sleep peacefully?
No, I'm
Yes.
hoping.
We don't have any
After
reporters.
beverage.
I'm hoping.
Without going into detail, was it difficult to keep track of all the evidence and all the witnesses who testified, sorting out what's important, what's not? I mean, what's less important, I mean, you know,
I think everything we heard in that room was important, and that's why some of us had 4 up to 8 notebooks, making sure we got all the information so we can factor all of it. So I think it was all, at the time, equally important.
How hard was it to follow the phone records? It was tough for me.
It was difficult.
It was difficult. What's that?
Would you be willing to identify yourselves now? That we will have a list
Or the
later today.
the ones who
The ones who-
anybody
spoke,
who might want to
the ones
say
who
who they
spoke,
were,
just say
who they
spell
are.
your name, so
And if you don't?
you know if you wouldn't mind the ones who spoke. Lady in blue.
They already have.
You're number 4, right?
You were all very
You're number 3.
I'm an alternate, and my name is April Blanchard.
Pardon me?
April Blanchard.
Blanchard like the store?
Yes.
C-H-A-R-D?
Yes, I'm an alternate.
Okay. And where are you?
We're done.
Where are you from?
I am originally from Taunton.
Was it devastating to be called as an alternate? Was it frustrating?
Yes, absolutely. Because I had put in just as much time as everybody else here, and I had no play in any of my opinions that I had. So it was very difficult.
And you still couldn't talk about it either, right?
Correct. It was very difficult. And I was there in a room while they were also doing their part. And I thank each and every one of them because they made the right decision.
We're all done. Thank you, guys.
Okay, does anybody else who spoke want, if you want, say your name and spell it so you know who you are?
They've just asked, I think, for cameras to stop.
Well,
I think.
well-
You may ask them to clarify.
Yeah, just
Okay.
everybody said, everybody.
And that would be...
Well, I don't mind